Welcome to Photoactive, a podcast about photography and technology. I'm Kirk McElhearn.
And I'm Jeff Carlson.
So here we are at the end of January. Actually, this podcast is being released in February. And Christmas is gone and the days are getting longer and we're starting to get that itch to go out and take photos, right? I mean, the sun sets here now as late as 4:30 or something in the afternoon. So it's like we have so much light during the day. You're at a lower latitude than I am. So that means you have a longer day than I do right now. So you have more time to take photos.
I do have a slightly longer, I think sunset right now, let me check, is at 5:04 p.m., which is actually, a full hour later than it was a month ago. So, right now in Seattle, it feels like things are longer, even though people are – I hear from a lot of people, it's like 5 o'clock, it's already dark. I'm driving home in the dark from work and in fact, I had a conversation with somebody earlier and I was like, I think our latest sunset was like at 3:47 one day or something absurd like that. And they live in the South and they could not even comprehend what that's like.
So this is a good time to prepare to go out and take more pictures. And today we wanted to talk about the kind of accessory you might want to put on your iPhone to help you take pictures. The reason for this is because you don't always want to take a big, heavy camera out with you. You don't always want a camera bag with 11 lenses. Sometimes you want just that little slab of computer that's in your pocket, and you want to use that to take photos. And while it's certainly sufficient on its own, there are accessories that can improve the way you take photos, or at least improve the way you handle it to take photos. And I'm going to start with mine, which I mentioned before. It's my Peak Design case, which has a Peak Design anchor that you can attach to the bottom, that you can connect to a Peak Design wrist strap. So if you're out someplace in the cold and you're taking photos, you don't have to worry about dropping your iPhone. And that alone is worth having.
That actually sounds amazing. There have been many times when, even not in the cold, when, you want to stretch out over a railing or something like that. And the picture of the phone tumbling just fills your brain for a moment.
And you don't use a case on your phone, do you?
I do not, no.
God, I don't know how you do it.
I basically hold it very close to me and never actually use it.
Yeah.
No, but this brings up a really good point. So, one of the things about photographic accessories for iPhones is that there are so many of them, and I don't know, like the iPhone or any smartphone, but the iPhone in this case, it sort of begs for accessories. Like it's fine on its own, but people want to get cases and they want to get lanyards. They want to – I don't know. Once you start looking at the photographic side of things, you've got additional lenses. You've got additional brackets. You've got all sorts of things that we're going to talk about. But as someone who doesn't like to have a case, one of the things that's kept me from doing this often is that sometimes, like say with accessory lenses – like you need to have their case that has the attachment doodad so it is on there securely in the right place. And for me, like I don't like having a case because I don't like to bulk up the phone.
Yeah, okay. It makes it thicker and wider.
It makes it a little thicker, a little heavier. Even the Peak Design case, which is it's pretty svelte. It's extraordinarily well made. I like that part of it especially. But like it's another thing. And I don't know, I just prefer not to do that. And so that makes it difficult for the idea of putting on extra lenses. And like I don't want to have a case on my phone just so that I could put a lens on later.
That you may not want to use all the time.
And as I'm sure we'll get into shortly, how often you're actually going to be using this also plays a big part.
Now, you mentioned lanyards, and I learned a few months ago that lanyards are a big thing for phones among the young people.
Oh,
they put a crossbody lanyard to keep their phone from, so they don't have to carry it. It's more a female than a male thing. That's not a bad idea. I'm just looking on Amazon. Here's one at £5. It connects. It looks like it has some sort of thing that connects, that glues onto the back of a case. So how it may connect might not always work with your case. But the idea is similar to the Peak Design wrist strap. And here's one that comes with a full-length lanyard and a wrist strap lanyard. And that seems to be a really good idea. If you're going out to take photos and you don't want a case, but you can use one of these, assuming it doesn't need a case. I don't know how they all connect. That would be a good way to protect your phone from dropping like into the Grand Canyon and then trying to catch it before it falls too far.
And then dropping yourself into the Grand Canyon.
Well, we don't want to go any further with that, but yeah.
Well, also, I think that, when I have been in Europe the last couple of times, like some sort of a body strap, even if it's just like a little pouch or a sling, seems to be super popular. And I mean,
well, that's because there is a rash of phone thefts, particularly electric bicycles and scooters in London. You won't hear them coming, and they'll come up on the sidewalk and grab your phone. And if they get it quickly enough and it doesn't lock, then they can access information on your phone.
Yeah. In fact, Google, when they released the latest Android 15, they added a feature that actually – like it uses the gyroscopes and some AI algorithms to detect that sort of sudden movement to automatically lock your phone as a way to, protect against that.
So there's other types of iPhone accessories, and actually what prompted the idea for this episode is I saw something by a company called Fjorden, which is a Norwegian company, and they're one of these. There have been a number of grips that you could put on an iPhone since the very first iPhone, or since the first iPhone that had a decent camera. And their grip comes with two types of attachments. One is using their case, which, as you said, you've got to have the case from the manufacturer, and the grip snaps in. But the other is a MagSafe connector that you can buy. And the grip allows you to, they kind of say it's like control, like a DSLR. It has a shutter button. It has a couple of a wheel. It has some other adjustment buttons. And it works especially with their camera app. So you can control things much more easily than that new button that Apple put in the phone, which is totally useless.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I'm running up against this I'm not going to be very helpful today because I'm really kind of negative about all of these things, and I'm having an internal struggle because A, I like taking pictures with my phone. B, I've written a take control book about iPhone photography. I've used some of these things, usually older ones, and I'm going to be the curmudgeon that says these are all interesting, neat ideas that I don't know how often people end up using them. There's another one called Alice Camera. We'll put links in the show notes, of course. And aside from the fact that their main image is blurry, which is sort of bizarre, this is like a camera. Like it's got I think a micro four thirds sensor and a lens, and basically you are strapping a camera onto your iPhone. And of course it has some sort of AI something, who knows. And it seems like an interesting idea, but if you're going to go to that length, why not just get a camera? I mean, this is the thing about –
Well, for that thing you're talking about, you're using the iPhone to control the camera.
Yeah, I guess so. But why? Why not just use a camera?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean –
Well, you're using the iPhone to control the camera, and you're using the iPhone display to see what the camera is seeing. So it's cutting out half of what the camera does. Basically, it's a lens that connects to the iPhone.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I mean, here's my thing. And I hate that I'm so conflicted about this. But because, I mean, for years we have been saying things like, look, whatever camera you have, go out, take photos, enjoy photography. whether it's like a super expensive camera or an iPhone, like everything's good. Like I want to keep up that positive attitude. And yet here I am thinking to myself, if I'm going to accessorize my iPhone, which has a pretty good camera, it's not as good as, your standalone, certainly not as good as like your Leica, but the intent behind this is I'm going to go and take better pictures with my iPhone using these accessories in some way. And maybe that's a hand grip. Maybe it gives you more of a like an actual shutter button. I've had these in the past where you actually have a grip and it has a button and it triggers it somehow. Or maybe you add a lens to it because you want to get a fisheye effect or whatever. As soon as you do that, you're shifting into the dedicated photo mode. And I feel old-fashioned in saying this, but if you're going to switch into a dedicated photo mode, then you should probably have a dedicated camera for it. Because here's the thing. All right, let's say I do want to go and shoot this way. Then I have to make sure I have my accessories with me. I have to make sure that I have connected the hand grip, that the software is working correctly. I'm using the iPhone camera, which is, like we've said, it's a good camera. You can get good results, but you're not going to get as good as I would expect when I'm in that sort of camera mode. And I know that some people only shoot with their iPhones, and I can certainly see how somebody who doesn't want a dedicated camera and they just want to improve their iPhone photography a little bit when they want to go out and be photographic. But I don't know, man. I'm fighting with this. I want to be encouraging, but I have never used any of these kind of devices, these accessories, and been happy with them. And they typically all just end up in a drawer. And maybe I just like jumped to the end and ruined everything here. But I feel like I have to get that out. I am the curmudgeon's curmudgeon today.
I've just been browsing while you're talking, and I did find one thing that's useful. It's a MagSafe tripod mount, and you stick this on any tripod, and you have a MagSafe mount, and that's really quick, and you don't need one of those brackets, that spring-mounted brackets or whatever it is, and that would be very useful to have if you have a tripod. But then again, if you have a tripod, that means you're planning to go shooting, and you've got this big tripod, and why not bring your big camera? It's true that
yeah.
It's the iPhone can replace a camera, but it can't replace a camera, right?
Yes. It
can replace it for some things, but once you start planning more shoots, like I actually found an article on CNET where they're talking about a pro-level flash for iPhone at $2,000. I mean, you're going to buy a flash for an iPhone for $2,000? That's just ridiculous. I mean, you've mentioned, was it last episode you mentioned you bought some soft lights for $100 or $50 or whatever?
Yeah.
I mean, a pro-level flash at $2,000 is kind of ridiculous. And I've never bought any of these things. I've always been intrigued by them. Mm-hmm. But the idea, for example, you said if you want to put a lens on to get a fisheye effect, the idea of putting a lens on a lens seems that it's going to degrade the photos. Now, I wouldn't buy a fisheye lens for any camera because I don't really care about that type of photography.
Yeah.
But any lens, like, am I going to put a zoom lens on an iPhone, which will only work on the iPhone model you buy it for, and it won't work on the next one because the camera bump is going to be different and the layout is different, and you're buying a disposable lens that you can sell for a quarter of its price on eBay or chuck in the drawer.
Yeah. Well, and also a lot of these smaller lenses, and here I'm classifying kind of the mass of options out there. I'll get to another company in just a minute. A lot of them, they aren't great optics. What they're going to do is they're going to give you a wider field of view, or maybe they'll give you like more of a telephoto effect than what your phone will give you, and which is, I mean, actually a harder sell now because your phone will do, a 5x zoom, for example. I can see an advantage in augmenting your iPhone because you want to use just the main camera. You don't want to have the limitations of, say, using your telephoto lens where it's not as good of a sensor. You don't get as many megapixels. So you want to just stick with that main camera, shoot at 48 megapixels in RAW mode, but then have a lens that will give you telephoto. The problem is a lot of these, like the quality just isn't great. And so you're accepting further compromises. One compromise is that you have to add this thing. Another compromise is that you are not getting, really great optics. Now, the exception I think here is a company called Moment. And they've made high-quality lenses, I think, since almost the beginning of iPhone photography. And
yeah, I think they were the first to have these add-on lenses.
Yeah. And, if setting aside everything that I've said before, if I had decided that I do want to accessorize and I'm tired of carrying around an extra camera, I could see buying a Moment lens or a couple of Moment lenses because they seem to be high quality enough. And again, I would be using that and not changing my settings on the iPhone in terms of the like the camera that I use. So the external lens, that would give me the field of view that I want or the bokeh that I want or what have you.
What?
Oh, I said the word. Sorry.
You said the word.
Wow, we haven't that hasn't come up a lot. And actually, as soon as I said the word, I realized that wouldn't apply because these lenses don't have an aperture. So
exactly.
Yeah. Wow. I guess we sort of like broke that for the new year. All right. Well, we've said it.
Well, that's like saying the name of the Scottish play in the theater, right? That brings bad luck.
I'm not even going to go there because that must apply to podcasts too, right? I'm like it's a performance.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So like Moment lenses, I would recommend them without having used them, but just because a lot of people have used them as options if you want to do this. But I will also point out, again, like I'm going to contradict myself. There's another situation where these are more helpful, and that's when you're shooting video. Because if you'll notice, I think all of the recent, like let's say in the last year or so, all of the videos that Apple has been making, they've been shooting on iPhones. And, I mean, like not just –
well, they've been shooting on iPhones in these very complex rigs.
That's exactly it.
Which also contain – I mean, they're rigs that are like gimbals, so they also contain whatever is necessary to keep them stable and all that.
Yeah, yeah. So, like to go to the other extreme, you have something that's going to hold the phone. You've got something that's like memory that's going to – save out to external and shoot, record and log, but also they will connect some sort of external lens. And sometimes it's going to be something like a Moment lens, but they even have adapters now. I mean, they're using like big cinema lenses and just taking advantage of that. So like that is a possibility. Let's say that you are shooting a student project or maybe – your company needs some sort of video thing that you don't have like a big camera, you don't have a big budget, but getting like a little cage, they have basically a thing so you can hold with two hands and it's got grips and then you add something to it, you add the lens to it. Like that is a more feasible use. But again, like we've stepped into another realm away from here's this camera that I carry in my pocket every day,
right,
to semi or fully professional.
So one accessory that could be useful if you want to shoot videos, because we started by talking about photography, but then you veered off into video there, is to get a gimbal. Because while the iPhone has good image stabilization, it's nothing like an actual gimbal. If you want to film a children's party or some outdoor event like a picnic, and you want videos that don't look choppy, get a gimbal. You get one for $100. They're not expensive. And it's not a small device. It's maybe 3 or 4 times the size of the iPhone, but it has a handle. You can hold it and you can move around. It's like a mini Steadicam and they're surprisingly efficient.
Didn't you have one at one point, or you had tried one out?
I bought one a few years ago, but I never shoot video, so I ended up selling it on eBay.
Yeah.
I tried it out to see how it works. I was quite impressed, but there's nothing I shoot with video that's worth having that kind of a device.
Yeah.
But if you do shoot video, then I don't know, your kids play soccer and you want to shoot videos of the game, like running along the field while your kid is dribbling the ball down the field, and you'll get a really smooth NFL quality shot with that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So what else is there? I would say an SD card adapter. So you can offload your photos and videos. So Apple sells both Lightning and USB-C versions that plug into the iPhone, and you stick an SD card in and you can offload all your stuff.
Yeah.
What else is there that's...
Because the most recent iPhones, or at least the Pro iPhones, they can transfer data much faster over the USB-C port. So when you are, say, recording log footage, then you can attach like a little SSD, and it's basically like a little mini cage or a little something that you just attach to the back of your phone, so that you don't just have an SSD dangling. Like the way to do it is to have like a tiny SSD, like the little SanDisk ones, and you plug a short cable, and then you're just sort of holding them together. And if you're doing this more often, or you're shooting massive amounts of photos, then basically having something that will fit nicely, that makes a big difference. And I'm going to circle back a little bit and say having MagSafe has made a huge difference for these types of things, because you can get something that just holds on magnetically, and I mean even for lens mounts and things like that.
Battery packs. If you're shooting a lot of video, you'll need a battery pack.
Yeah, you're going to need some extra power there. So being able to just have something that pops in on and off without having like a separate case, or God forbid, changing cases to do different things. I mean that used to be a thing too. So MagSafe is a really, really great addition.
I just tried to connect a little SanDisk SSD to my iPhone, and the plastic behind the USB-C plug is too big to go through my case, so I had to put another USB-C cable. So if you do take something like this and you're going out to shoot photos, make sure your cable plugs into your device before you go out, because here, this one doesn't work. This is the one that came with the SSD, and it's too big.
I'm trying to think of other things. Having like a MagSafe tripod holder actually makes a huge difference. I did some testing last year of different iPhone cameras, and I picked up, well, it's behind my computer right now, but it's a little MagSafe disc that just plugs into
is it the one you put on top of the computer, the Belkin?
No, it's not a Belkin. Basically, it's a little MagSafe disc that's got a tiny little ball head and a thread where you can pop it onto a tripod or something. And that was especially useful because I didn't want to have to keep – like I hate the clampy style of holders. Yeah. And so like having that was super, super flexible.
And so that's practical if you want to use your iPhone as a webcam.
Yeah.
Next to or above your computer.
Yeah.
That you use something like that because you just snap it on and snap it off. MagSafe on the iPhone is probably one of the best technologies that Apple's come out with in a long time, both for charging and for adding accessories like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope our listeners understand that our hesitation here is not that we don't really care, but we don't really care about these things, and they're not like there might. I'd be curious to know if there are any listeners who do use these sorts of devices. I think anyone who's seriously into photography doesn't. I think for anyone who is into photography, the iPhone is their second or third or fourth camera, right? Mm-hmm. The one that they'll have in their pocket all the time. It's not really. I mean, there are people who do iPhone photography. There are people who write books about iPhone photography. You can go on Instagram. You see all sorts of iPhone photography. It's not quite the same thing as photography with a camera. It's not as intentional, I think. When your camera's always in your pocket, it's there to catch a moment. It's not that I'm taking my camera and I'm going out to take photos.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, there's definitely a place for intentional iPhone photography. That flash that you mentioned, I think it's Photo. So Photo is a brand that is just – it's sort of like Leica. Like it's unnecessarily expensive.
It's for pros.
Yeah. And so they developed a thing so that you can basically trigger these professional flashes with your iPhone. And I know that Russell Brown, he's a guy who's been at Adobe forever. He's been basically working on long-term project just using his iPhone, making portraits, doing different sorts of shots. And he uses those flashes quite a lot. But that is the creative choice to do it that way, just as you would say, I'm going to go use a like a super high resolution camera to do landscape work. So,
right.
Like he has set that.
It's a constraint for his project.
Yeah. And it's a creative choice. It's a creative constraint where I think most of what we're talking about here is I have this camera and I'm going to take some pictures of it and maybe I can take some better pictures if I buy a lens for it. And my impression has always been don't throw away your money unless you just really have a good reason for it. Yeah.
Okay. Should we do some snapshots so good things people can throw away their money on?
We should do snapshots to get Jeff out of his negative spiral here. Let me start. I have a photo book, and it is a book of photos, and it is a book called Vivian Mayer or Meyer. Do you know?
I think it's Meyer.
Meyer. Okay.
Like Oscar Mayer wieners.
Oh, okay. Vivian Meyer, street photographer. I'm sure we've mentioned Vivian Meyer before. She was a nanny who carried a camera everywhere in I think from the 1950s to I think she passed away in the 80s, I think. And she took pictures of everything, but she never shared it. She never published anything, and I think rarely made prints even. And a guy named John Maloof discovered all of these negatives in, I think, an estate sale, and basically discovered this amazing unknown photographer. And her work is really quite good. And this is a book that just focuses on a lot of the street photography. A lot of it is black and white, a few color pictures, but not a whole lot. And there's actually not much written about it. It's mostly just here's a picture, here's a picture, here's a picture. So it can seem a little bit kind of scattered, kind of disjointed. Like it doesn't have a theme other than these are street pictures that she took. But they're lovely. There are some that just take my breath away.
There's a documentary that you can get from the Apple TV store called Finding Vivian Meyer. This actually gives a lot more information than the book. So I would say it's worth getting that. It doesn't look like it's for rent here. It's only for sale. This goes over the whole process and discusses her life. The one criticism one could have is that this guy, John Maloof, who discovered the photos, is making money off them. And, possession is 9/10 of the law and all that. But her work is very interesting. I have that book and I have seen some of her other work and other books. And it's quite... She took between 100,000 and 150,000 photos and didn't do anything with them, which I find interesting. She did it for herself, which I guess, there's a lot of reasons to do creative things like that for yourself, right?
I just got it from Amazon. I had some Christmas money. It's like $40. I'm not sure how much I paid, but, typical discount. Very affordable, nice, high quality. So it's a good book. Kirk, what do you have this week?
So my snapshot this episode is the humble microfiber cloth, and I want to tell you why. But first, I want to read you part of an ode that Perplexity, which is the large language model service that I use, composed for me. Oh, humble microfiber, soft and true, a silent savior in all that you do. With thread so fine, a wondrous weave, you banish dust and dirt, make surfaces breathe.
Oh, my God. Oh, wow.
If you haven't tried it, these things are good at making funny limericks and poems and all this.
I am so sorry that I suggested that.
Okay, I won't read any more. It's really funny. The reason I'm mentioning this is, as listeners can tell, Jeff and I both wear glasses and we have microfiber cloths to clean them, but also clean your lenses with microfiber cloths. Clean your iPhone camera with microfiber cloths to get the smudges off, because there's no lens cap on an iPhone, right? Microfiber cloths are cheap and you stick them in your pocket. Make sure you wash them every couple months, but they're really good for cleaning any sort of photo stuff. I remember I used to have this special lens cleaning paper back in the day, but this is before the lenses have the coatings that they have now, and they were much more sensitive. So microfiber cloths, you get, I don't know, it's a few bucks for a dozen or 100 or whatever at your local, Amazon. Just stick a few in your camera bag. Stick some in your pocket, use them on your glasses, your cameras, your iPhones, and everything else.
See, I thought you were going to recommend like the Apple, what is it?
Apple polishing cloth, but that's not compatible with glasses. That's compatible with Apple displays.
Oh.
Or for polishing your AirPods case, you can use it.
Oh, okay. Good to know, everybody. Don't use it on the wrong thing.
A guardian of gadgets, protector of screens, in your fibers lie the cleanest of dreams.
All right. And on that, I think we're going to end this episode. And let us know in our Facebook group if you use any sort of iPhone accessories. Am I completely wrong? Am I totally a curmudgeon about this? Let us know, because if there are useful ones, I would love to hear about them.
And let us know if you use microfiber cloths.
And let us know if you've written poems about photography.
I will make sure to put the ode to the microfiber cloth in the show notes so you can all read it and have a good laugh.
Perfect. That
Okay.
alone has made today worth it. All right.
All right, let's get out of here. Goodbye. Thanks for listening to Photoactive. You can find show notes, including any photos we discuss in this episode, at photoactive.co. That's photoactive.co. We couldn't afford the M. You can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/photoactivecast. That's photoactivecast in one word. You can subscribe to Photoactive in your favorite podcast app or on Apple Podcasts. See the links on our website. And think about leaving us a rating or review in iTunes or in your podcast app.